Since posting a couple videos and shorts about the guys harvesting rice around here, a question that I've been asked several times is what happens to all this straw that is left behind on the ground? In the old days, the guys used to burn these fields off, and that was kind of how they dealt with the straw. And as time went on and regulations changed, they weren't able to do that. So the strategy then became decomposition. How can they get this straw to decompose as fast as possible? And usually what that resulted in is mowing the fields, chiseling or disking them, and then flooding them and stomping that straw material into the ground so that it would rot. And by the time next spring rolls around and the guys want to work the fields up to plant them, the straw had all decomposed and was basically gone. Then I want to say about 15-20 years ago, somebody had the bright idea to bale this up and see if you could use it as feed for cattle, and it turns out that you can, but it's really not that great for it. Usually when the guys are baling this up to put into a feed ration, it's going to a dairy or a feedlot, and they're going to be mixing the rice straw in with things that are a lot more nutrient dense, because the rice straw really doesn't have anything in it. It's essentially just a filler. And you would really only see them do this on years when the hay price was really expensive, and it would make more sense for a feedlot or a dairy to get the rice straw for next to nothing than to pay through the nose for alfalfa. This year the hay price is down at a reasonable level, I guess. If you're a buyer, if you're a seller, you probably think it's pretty low. And as a result, I haven't seen anybody baling rice straw this year, but I got to thinking that I kind of want some, and I've got a baler, so maybe I could bale some. So I talked to my friend that owns the neighboring property here and asked him if it would be okay if I came out here and baled a few bales of rice straw, and he was okay with it. And the nice thing about doing it in this field here is that we are literally right next door to the ranch, so getting these bales home is not a big deal. And I'm thinking we might even be able to test out the old Dodge and make some hay loads with that thing for the first time. So the plan is to make about 15 or maybe 20 of the big 6-foot round bales and haul those back to the ranch, and then I will probably distribute like 5, or I'm not really sure how many. We'll figure that out when we get to it. But I'll distribute several out in the big corral, knowing that when the cattle go in there, they're going to eat some of it, but mostly what they're going to do is rub on it and spread it out and stomp it into the ground. And my hope is that later this year, when it does start raining, having all of that straw matter out there is going to help reduce the mud. And then same idea for the pigs. I'll probably make 2 or 3 of the small 4-foot round bales that I can throw in the pig pen if things start getting too muddy in there. I've seen Pete on Just a Few Acres Farm do this. He calls it a hay bomb, and I've thought about doing it in the past, but I just cannot bring myself to put my good hay in the pig pen and just let them stomp it down into the mud. Rice straw, however, would be perfect for something like that. So the plan today is to run over, grab the round baler, bring it out to this check here in the neighbor's rice field, and see how many rice straw bales we can make. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. Well, we made it over here to the hay field, and some of you might notice that this rice straw is not raked into windrows. So my idea is, since I'm only trying to get 15 or 20 bales, not very much, I'm just gonna try to bale it up as it is. Because I'm doing such a low quantity, it just didn't seem worth it to line up getting somebody to come out here with a rake and rake it. And I don't have my own rake. If I did have my own rake, I probably would have went ahead and done it, but because I don't, we're just gonna try it like this. a little bit wetter than I thought, but it's not wet enough to stop me. We're right around 14%, a couple little higher, a couple little lower, but that seems to be the average. So I think we can go. Well, I've only made about 8 bales out here, and I'm starting to realize that I've got a problem. And that is that this rice straw is surprisingly wet. We haven't had any rain for weeks, and you know, it was pretty hot the last couple days, up in the 90s. But when you feel this straw right down near the ground, well, not only can I smell it, but I can feel a lot of moisture in it. These bales are probing. The first one probed pretty good. It was only around 14s. The rest of these are around 18 to 20, 22, sometimes higher. So if I'm just spreading these out in the corral, I don't really care if they're high moisture, but the idea of me storing some and kind of saving them for later, I just don't think that's a safe idea. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon right now. We've got a good breeze going, and I just don't think that this is gonna get any drier if I was to wait a couple more hours. Maybe the top would get drier, but that bottom where it's against the ground, that's just gonna hold the moisture. The only way that I could solve this would be by raking it, but again, for as many more bales as I would want to get, it's not worth all the trouble of getting a rake over here to do that. So I think what I'll do is I'll make 2 more 4-footer bales for the pigs, and we'll just store them somewhere where if they do start getting hot, they're not gonna hurt anything except themselves, and then we're gonna call this done. Believe how dirty this thing got just for 10 bales. Now I've got the predicament of needing this New Holland out where the bales are, and then also being able to get to the flatbed Dodge. Basically, it's looking like I've got a little walk in my future. So I'll leave the tractor parked here at the field with the bales in it and walk back to my house to get the Dodge. The GoPro probably won't pick it up, but I can actually see my house from here. I think it's only like a half a mile walk, so it's really not worth bothering my wife to come pick me up. By the time she got the kids gathered up into the car, I could probably have walked there. So that's what I'm gonna do. All right, let's get a little gas in this old girl. Turn the air conditioner on. Put some steaks in the pockets. All right, hopefully that'll do it. And then we can go. Thought you had it. Got it. Well, we made it. Truck's making some new noises with a load on it, that's for sure. Yeah. Got the last of the hay loaded, so the equipment shuffle begins all over again. I got to drive the truck back to the house. I'll walk back to the tractor, drive it to the ranch, spread those bales out where I want them, hook back up to the baler, and move everything back home. I wonder if these tires would hold air if I put some in them. Sure beat the heck out of walking. I feel like the back tire is not holding air too well, so if we hurry, we might make it. All right, we made it. Now, if you're wondering why ride a bike instead of a four-wheeler or something like that, it's because with the bike, I can do this. I've rearranged these a couple times. I'm not really sure exactly how I want to lay them out, but the more I'm thinking about like ultimately how I want this to look, I think the smart way to do it is to put most of these bales up here on this mound, because this is going to be the firmer, drier ground when we start getting wet weather anyway, because it's high ground. If we can put a nice pack layer of rice straw on top of that, then that should really never get muddy, maybe all winter long. At any rate, it'll give the cows a nice place to lay where they're not in the mud. When we're really in the heart of the rainy season, really where most of the traffic goes is from the mound, laying down up to the feeder to eat, and then over to the water to get a drink, maybe back to the feeder or back to the mound. So it really makes the most sense to focus on these pathways. What I really don't know is once I let the cows in there, how much they're gonna scatter these bales out. I'm sure they're gonna eat a little bit of them, but there's so much here that they're gonna end up stomping on it, peeing, pooping on it, and my hope is that most of this just stays on the ground, which is kind of odd because that's usually the exact opposite of what you want them to do with bales. So I've got 7 of the bales up here on the mound. I think this will be adequate. It might even be overkill. We'll just kind of have to wait and see how that all turns out. And then I've got 1 bale here sort of on the way to the feeder. Probably should have more here. I might end up moving these before I take the net wrap off of them. But for now, this is kind of what my plan is. And then the other big problem area is from the slab over to the waterer. And rather than try to fix this with straw, because I don't really think that it would work very well here, and I can't even really tell you why. It's just sort of a gut feeling that I have. I think what would work better here is bringing in several loads of gravel after scraping this out with the box scraper. If I can get a pretty good gravel bed from the edge of that slab all the way to either side of the water trough, then I think that will work. It worked really well in the calves pen last year around their feeders. They didn't dig that out nearly as bad as they did the year before. So I think that is the next step. There's this balancing act of what's feasible, what's economical, and that's why I'm really hopeful about the rice straw, because usually you can get it for free, so that makes it economical. I've got all the equipment to bale it and move it here. I need a rake, I know that now, but I think once I have that, then I'll pretty much be able to do this all by myself. So I'm optimistic. I think this will at least give me some good results. I might wish that I would have baled more of these, and maybe next year I will be able to do that. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.